It started as a simple getaway, just me and Amelia hiking off-grid for a couple of days. We picked a remote trail with no signal, no traffic, just silence and pine trees. The kind of place where the world disappears behind you. We parked at the trailhead, shouldered our packs, and stepped into the woods. The sunlight filtered through the trees, and everything smelled like pine trees and damp earth. It felt perfect, peaceful. If only it had stayed that way. We were a few hours in when we saw him. The trail bent between two ridges, and there he was. Tall, broad shoulders, and with a wild beard, worn-out pack. He didn't smile, just nodded, his eyes lingering a little too long, almost like he was sizing me up a little bit. Something about him felt off, but we didn't really think much about it. I muttered hey, and Amelia added a quiet good afternoon, but no response. He just averted his eyes. We kept moving, maybe a little faster now. I glanced back and he was still there, just staring. Around midday, we stopped in a small clearing to eat. I was halfway through unwrapping my sandwich when I saw him again, standing on the trail, maybe 50 feet away. "Amelia," I whispered. She looked, shrugged, probably just taking the same trail. But then he stepped back into the woods, vanishing into the brush. No crunch of leaves, no motion, just gone. I couldn't shake it. Are we being followed? Or were we being stalked? The air grew heavier, the shadows longer. The silence seemed more intense. We didn't speak much as we hiked. Every so often, I'd hear twigs snapping, timed with our own steps, like something was keeping pace just far enough behind to stay hidden. Once I spun around. Nothing. Just quiet trees. We set up camp near dusk. Neither of us said much, just the motions of setting up camp. Tent, fire, food. Amelia tried to stay upbeat, but I could hear it in her voice. She was getting nervous. Beyond the firelight, the forest was pitch black. Every rustle felt like a threat. I kept my hand near my flashlight, heart leaping at every sound. Amelia sat beside me, knees pulled in. "It's probably just other hikers," she offered. But even she didn't believe that. Then I saw it, movement at the edge of the firelight. Low, quick. Too quiet for an animal, too fast for a person. I jumped up, flashlight blazing, scanning the trees. Nothing, just shadows. "What did you see?" Amelia asked me. "I don't know. Nothing." But it felt like something was out there. I barely slept. Every noise snapped me awake. Then late into the night, I heard it. Something brushed against the tent. I held my breath. Then the sound of the zipper. Ours being pulled down slowly. I grabbed the flashlight, my heart racing. I shouted, "Hey!" The zipper stopped. Footsteps, quick and heavy, retreated. I scrambled out and shone the light into the trees. For a moment I thought I saw him, but I wasn't sure. Amelia sat up, eyes wide. She didn't ask what happened. She knew. We didn't speak, just packed in silence and left, flashlights slicing through the dark. The woods felt tighter now, like they were closing in on us. Every noise made my heart jump. We should have been back to the car by now, but the trail seemed to stretch on endlessly. Then I saw him again, just ahead, barely visible through the trees, watching. He's always watching. He wasn't trying to catch us, not yet anyway. He was playing with us, keeping pace, reminding us he was always there. I could hear his steps now, light but deliberate, and always behind us. Always close. Amelia's hand clutched mine tight, her face pale, lips pressed into a thin line, fear in her eyes, and still the forest kept going. Then, light. Faint but real. Dawn was breaking, and we had made it to the trailhead. But there he was, standing directly in our path. He didn't move. He didn't speak, just stared. Head tilted like he was amused or something. Like he'd been waiting. Amelia froze beside me. I stepped in front of her. "Stay behind me," I whispered. Then I spoke to him, voice steady. "We don't want any trouble. We just want to leave." Nothing. Not a twitch, not a sound. He just stepped aside. We didn't run. We didn't speak. We just walked past. my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the forest. Then suddenly I was on the ground, the man on top of me. "Run!" I shouted at Amelia, and without a second's hesitation, she bolted. I saw her sprint toward the car. The man was still on top of me, muttering something I couldn't quite make out. We struggled for what seemed like an eternity, and then I was able to turn onto my back. Having grasped a rock, I swung it hard and hit him in the temple, causing him to fall off of me. I didn't wait to see if it had knocked him out. I scrambled to my feet and ran after Amelia. The car was so close, but as I reached the door, Amelia was struggling with the handle. She was frantic, trying to get in, but the door was locked. My backpack. I put the keys in there. I spun around, my eyes wide, searching through the bag, my hands shaking as I fumbled through it. Come on, come on! Panic clawed at me. The sound of footsteps growing louder. He was coming. He was getting closer. Then finally I felt the keys under my fingers. "Got it!" I yelled, and quickly I unlocked the door. Amelia scrambled in, slamming the door behind her, and I ran around to the driver's side and leapt into the driver's seat, barely shutting and locking the door before I heard the hiker violently pulling on the door handle. I started the engine in a blur of motion, the car jerking to life. Without a second thought, I threw the car into drive, slamming my foot to the floor, and we tore down the path, tires sliding as I swerved around the bend. In the rearview mirror, I could see him, standing there at the edge of the trail, watching us speed away. As we raced down the road, adrenaline still coursing through my veins, something began to gnaw at the back of my mind. Our backpacks. My driver's license was in my pack. My address is on my driver's license. I glanced at Amelia, her face pale as she stared out the window, her hands still clutching the seat like she was afraid it might somehow slip away from her. I just kept driving, hoping, praying that the man wouldn't follow, hoping we had escaped. But deep down, I knew the nightmare wasn't over. It couldn't be. There's a trail in northern Washington that doesn't exist on any map. No signs, no markers. If you don't know exactly where to look, you'll walk right past it. I knew where to look. I had found it years ago as a teenager. The memory never really left me, the eerie sense that something was pulling me towards it. The feeling that no matter how much time had passed, I had to return. So I convinced my 3 best friends, Maya, Chris, and Lexi, to join me on a weekend hike to find it again. "It's a shortcut to a lookout," I said, trying to sound casual. "Best view you'll ever see." The main trail was busy, crowded with families, hikers. The sound of chatter and laughter filled the air. But after a couple miles, I slowed. My heart raced as I scanned the underbrush. Then, there it was. A faint gap in the trees, narrow and overgrown. "This is it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Chris stopped. "That's the path?" Maya hesitated, eyeing the darkened trail. I forced a grin. "Where's your sense of adventure?" Lexi rolled her eyes and said, "If we die, I'm haunting you." The trail was tight, winding, and uneven, but it wasn't impassable. Branches scraped against our clothes and skin as we pushed forward. The deeper we went, the quieter the world became. The usual sounds of birds and insects seemed to fall away. It was unsettling. No breeze, no chirps, only silence. "Feels wrong," Maya whispered. I stopped to check my bearings. The path should have reconnected to the main trail by now, but the trees were thicker than I remembered, the light dimmer, even though it was midday. "Weird," I muttered. "What?" Chris asked. "I don't remember it being this long." Then snap! A loud crack from ahead, something large breaking underfoot. We froze. "Possibly an animal," Lexi said, her voice a little shaky. I took a deep breath, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Let's keep moving. It's not far." The path twisted deeper, and the forest swallowed us. Time stretched, hours passed. Our phones were useless, no service. It felt like dusk, even though it was still mid-afternoon. Suddenly, the trail disappeared, swallowed up by thick underbrush. "Great," Chris muttered. "Now what?" I scanned the surroundings. The lookout should be right here. Lexi slowly turned in a circle. Where's the trail? Even behind us, it's gone. We all turned, and the path that we had come in from was gone, replaced by dense, tangled forest. A chill crept up my spine. We must have missed a turn. We didn't, Maya said, her voice flat and unnerved. It's the same everywhere, same trees, same rocks. Chris kicked a log in frustration. This is bullshit. Let's go back. But the way we came was gone. We backtracked for hours, but every direction was the same. Identical trees, identical sounds, or lack of them. We set up camp by the fading light, but no one slept. Shadows danced in the flickering firelight. At the edge of the flame, I thought I saw something, a figure, a shape, but when I turned, it was gone. Maya's voice broke the silence. I've heard of places like this, old trails abandoned for a reason. They were made by early settlers or before them indigenous routes. Some were cursed, some alive. Chris scoffed. So the forest is alive now? Maya snapped back. I'm serious. We're not lost. We're trapped. No one answered her. We just sat in silence. The next morning, Chris was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. No signs of a struggle. No footprints. Nothing. We called his name until our voices cracked. I found something small on the ground, a pendant. It was Chris's. Lexi looked at me, eyes wide. We're going to die out here. No, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. We stay together, we keep moving. But the forest didn't care. It twisted, it shifted. The trees closed in around us. Sometimes I thought I heard whispers. Not really voices, just whispers. Other times, Lexi screamed at nothing, her face twisted in terror. Maya had gone silent. Her eyes were empty and vacant. By the third day, the food was gone. We were weak, dehydrated, then Lexi vanished. One moment she was behind me, the next, gone. Not a sound, no struggle, just gone. I screamed her name. I ran through the underbrush, tearing at the branches. Nothing. I fell to my knees, shaking. I brought us here. Maya knelt beside me, touching my hand. Her fingers were cold. She said, "We're not dead yet." That night we didn't light a fire. Something moved between the trees, footsteps, slow, methodical. It seemed to circle us. I thought I heard something else. Laughter? Or was it a voice? I couldn't tell. I gripped the small knife in my hand. My heart thudded in my chest as loud as a drum. The next morning when I got up, I found Maya just standing there, staring into the woods. "I think I understand," she whispered, her voice hollow. "It doesn't want us to leave. It feeds off us." "You have to go," she said. "It won't take both of us at the same time. It needs fear. Someone has to distract it." Before I could stop her, she jerked free and ran into the forest. I ran after her. I screamed her name, but she was gone. I was alone now. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just walked. No trail, no map, just trees closing in. Then, a break in the forest, sunlight. I stepped out onto a familiar trail, the real trail. Hikers passed by, glancing at me, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't tell them. No one would believe me anyway. I turned to look back. The hidden path was gone. Search teams found no sign of the others. Officially, they were listed as missing hikers, but I know better. There's a trail in northern Washington that doesn't exist on any official maps. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always waiting. It was supposed to be an escape. No emails, no traffic, just silence. Mark and I packed up and headed into the mountains, eager to leave everything behind. We chose a trail that few people talked about, old, overgrown, buried in a dense forest far from the usual weekend hikers. It promised seclusion, exactly what we wanted. By sunset, we'd found a clearing near a stream. The ground was soft with pine needles, and the forest hummed with birds and breeze. It felt untouched. It felt amazing. As Mark set up the tent, I got the fire going. Flames danced in the growing dark, and above us, stars began to flicker to life. Man, I needed this, Mark said, sinking back with a sigh. Yeah, I said, feeling the tension draining from my chest. Finally breathing again. Everything felt perfect. Morning came, and it was cold. Mist hung low over the trees. As we packed up, I spotted something near a cluster of rocks. A boot. Just one. Muddy, laces torn. Not ancient, but definitely abandoned. Mark wandered over, squinting. Weird place to lose a boot. We shrugged it off, but something about it seemed really weird to me. Not long after, we passed a red cloth caught on a branch. Then came the knife, rusted, jagged, half buried in the dirt. The kind of thing that had seen better days. Who just leaves this stuff? I muttered. Campers, Mark offered. He said it in a little bit of a snarky way, but his voice didn't sound all that sure. Further down, we found a plastic bag wedged in a bush. Something inside had rotted. The stench hit hard, rancid, organic, and outright nasty. I didn't open it. I didn't want to know what it was. The trail began to vanish. Fewer markers, fainter path, trees thickening, light thinning. Seen any blazes? I asked. Mark shook his head, pulling out the map. It was useless. I checked my phone, but no signal. We're off trail, I said. Mark forced a half-assed smile. We'll backtrack. But every direction looked the same. The forest had swallowed us up. The deeper we walked, the quieter everything became, just the sound of our boots and our breathing. I don't like this, I said. Mark nodded, his usual calm beginning to slip. We stumbled into a clearing, and in the center stood a makeshift structure. It looked thrown together with scraps and tarp. It's barely standing. Is that a shack? Mark whispered. Smoke curled faintly from a dead fire pit. Clothing hung from a nearby branch, shirts, jeans. Worn, but not abandoned. We stepped closer. A backpack lay near the brush, half-zipped, stuffed with cans and a rusted hatchet. Something heavy settled in my gut. Let's not stick around, I said, my eyes scanning the trees, but Mark moved closer to the door. I hesitated, every instinct screaming to leave. The air stank, mildew and rot. Still, I followed. The inside of the shack was worse than I had expected. It was dark, the air was stale and heavy. A mattress was slumped in the corner, stained and torn. A knife, long, rusted, still sharp, was stabbed into a wooden table in the center of the room. Nails stuck out from the walls like makeshift hooks. A few held scraps of fabric. My skin began to crawl. Mark moved toward the shelf. Food, he said, holding up a can. Some of this is new. I stared at the floor. Scrape marks led from the door to the mattress as if something had been dragged. We need to go, I whispered. Mark nodded slowly, his face pale now. We turned to leave and froze. Footprints, fresh in the mud outside the shack. Someone had been here. Maybe they still were. We bolted into the woods, no idea which direction was right anymore. Branches whipping at us, roots snagging at our feet, but we didn't stop. The forest around us felt alive, pressing in, watching. Behind us, a sound, a branch snapping. Heavy breathing, then nothing. We ran blindly, feet slamming the forest floor, every snap of a branch behind us making our hearts seize. We didn't speak. We couldn't. The trees seemed to be closing in with every step. What should have been north felt like south, and then we saw it. The shack. Same peeling door, same crooked roof, like we'd never left. No, 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 Mark whispered, stumbling backwards. We went the other direction. We went the other way. A sound echoed from behind us, footsteps through the brush. We bolted. No plan, just raw, terrified movement. Whoever he was chasing us. We didn't look back. We just ran and ran and ran until our lungs felt like they were bleeding. Then through the trees, we saw the car. We exploded from the tree line, Mark fumbling with his key fob. I yanked the passenger door open halfway, expecting a hand to grab me before I could get in. The engine roared to life. Behind us, a figure burst from the woods, pale face, wild-eyed, mud-streaked clothes. He slammed a fist on the trunk as we peeled off, screaming something we couldn't understand. We didn't stop until we hit the gas station an hour away. No one believed us. The park rangers found nothing, no shack, no man, nothing. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear the way he screamed as we drove away.